Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kay Eichler. Welcome to our lead agency Tuesday afternoon webinar conference call. We have a special speaker, actually two special speakers this afternoon, and we have a special topic. So I know you're all aware that last year the department put into place a child care assistance program waiting list, and we have many families on that waiting list. But we are in a position now where we are about to have folks come off the waiting list and be able to receive services. We're going to talk to you about that process. So give me just a few seconds and we'll get started. All right, so our first speaker this afternoon will be Melinda George, and Melinda is the Division Director for the Child Care Assistance Program. She's going to take us through the first several slides. I want you to feel free to type your questions into chat as we go along. We will address the questions after everyone is through, after we've gone through the entire presentation, but don't hesitate to, if you want to go ahead and type them in so they're there, go ahead and do that. So Melinda, I'm going to ask you to get started.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to talk about some very important things that are going on and some exciting things. The calls have started moving up as word trickles out that we're about to go to the waiting list. Today we're going to talk about the additional funding that has been granted to the Louisiana Department of Education. We're going to review the procedures that we're going to use to remove families from the wait list and certify them eligible. We're going to share with you our timeline for this removal process, and we're going to provide information to assist you in understanding and explaining this removal process to families as they contact you in the field. We're going to provide contact information for you if you have additional questions on specific cases or specific providers. And we're going to also share with you some resources for families that are still on the wait list. So let me go with a brief overview. In order to expedite the process for families, every family that has been certified to the wait list beginning July of 2017 was deemed eligible. They sent in all their documents. They sent in their wage forms, and they sent in all the required documents. So what we wanted to do is expedite this process of removing them from the wait list so they didn't have to resubmit all the documents. So beginning August 1st, which is tomorrow, we will mass mail to the first 4,500 families a form that must be filled out. It's called a waitlist verification form. They're going to attest that everything that they sent in prior, that there's been no changes. If there has been a change in the documents, if they answer yes to any of the questions, and you'll see the form. Danielle will go over the actual form with you a little bit later, but if there has been a change, if they answer yes to any of the questions, they'll have to submit and complete a CCAP 10, which you can find on our website, and Danielle will also give you a link for that a little bit later. The staff of LDOE will also contact families and providers, and we're going to do a lot of those contacts in the evenings, early mornings, and on the weekends to ensure that we're able to make contact. We want to share this because a lot of times families don't answer numbers that they're not familiar with. But if they know, when word gets out that we're calling, we're hoping that they'll answer the phone for us in the morning, late evenings, Saturdays, and even Sundays. Staff will attempt initial contact with families, and we're going to use every number available to us because we want to make sure we serve families. But if we can't get them, many of our families have given permission for us when they initially signed on with CCAP on the application to contact their provider and let their provider know, their chosen provider, information. So we're going to contact the providers, and we're going to ask for assistance in contacting our families. What this means for families. LDOE has identified the first 4,500 families that will be removed from the CCAP wait list for services. And this is based on the date they submitted their application. First come, first serve. All we're looking at is the date. We're not looking at need. We're not looking at parish. We're looking only at the date we receive the application. The applications are date stamped when they come into our system. The families that are eligible to be removed from the CCAP waiting list will receive both a mailed and email notices beginning August 1st. There are some families we don't have an email for, but if we have any email information, we're going to send out notice. We don't want to miss anybody that's eligible to come on. So we're going to do everything within our power to try to locate families. The thing is, even though we're removing 4,500 families from the wait list, and we're all celebrating that, the sad part is that right now we have close to 7,000 families on the wait list. So that means 3,000 of the families still on the wait list today will remain on the wait list. It also means that as people continue to put in applications for CCAP, they will be moved to the wait list. So we still have a lot of work to do to make sure that we meet the needs of all the families that need services in Louisiana. The waitlist verification form will be mailed out to eligible families, and we're going to put 4,500 of them in the mail first thing in the morning. They must be completed and returned back to us within 10 days. They can be mailed to us, and in this webinar, we're going to go over, you're going to see our mailing information, our email information. They can be mailed, faxed, or emailed to us within 10 days. This is very important. The only way we can move a family from the waiting list is if we get that form that certifies that there has been no changes. If there has been a change, you need to remember this. They must complete a CCAP 10. On this slide, the CCAP 10 there's a link that they can follow to the actual CCAP 10. Families should confirm with the provider that they selected originally that there's still a seat available. Many of them selected a provider in July. By now, almost a year later, a little over a year later, some of those providers no longer have an open slot. So it's very important that when families are filling out that form, that they check to make sure that the provider of their initial choice still has a slot for their child. If not, they will have to complete a change form and add a new provider so that they can begin services. What this means for providers. Providers should begin the task of purging all information on inactive participants by contacting their quality program specialist at the help desk. And you can see the numbers that they need to use to contact them to ensure available slots. A lot of times providers have children on their roll who are no longer attending their center. Well, we cannot give authorizations for centers that are full. We only give centers authorizations when there is availability within their licensing number. So it's very important that if a center has children on their roll that are not using slots, that they get that information purged, and they need to begin that immediately so we can begin putting in authorizations for those children wanting to go to their centers. Providers may be contacted to assist in notifying families who've applied for services at their center or their home care. We're going to be calling as many as we can. Once we've exhausted all the phone numbers, email addresses, we'll begin to utilize providers in meeting the needs of the families and asking them, do you know where this family is? Is there another child or another sibling attending your center? They put your name down and maybe they've left some additional information with you. Authorizations, and this is very important, authorizations will not begin until September 4th. Even though the family is certified, we're going to begin all authorizations September 4th. Providers should not expect payment of any service rendered before September 4th. Children can begin attending the center, and CCAP will pay eligible children on or after September 4th. Authorization will not begin until we contact the family, and we will contact the provider, but they should, no matter what a family says, they should not accept or expect us to pay for services until September 4th. Providers will also receive mail notification when the authorizations are put in for the family. What this means for lead agencies, resource, and referral agencies. The department will post the number of children being removed from the wait list by parish, and Danielle will go back over that with you in another slide. But I want you to understand that even though the information is posted by parish, we are not removing children based on the parish. It's just that we got the information based on the way the first 4,500 fell on our wait list. We pulled off 4,500, then we divided them by parish, and we post the information so that each parish will know how many children are coming off the wait list in their area. Funding does not address all families on the wait list. That is really important. We're going to have some families, number 4,501, that we will not address unless a slot opens up. For example, in the first 4,500, we have families who are no longer interested in child care services, then we will go back to the waiting list and pull off until we authorize 4,500 children. There will still be many families that are not removed, and they're going to require additional resources and assistance. This webinar is going to be posted on the website to help families and providers, and lead agencies and resource referral agencies can help parents use a school finder to choose a center. Many families who have put in an application and were thinking they were going to one provider are going to find out that provider's full. So they're going to have to choose another center that they can send their child to. And you can use a school incentive finder to help them to find this information. I'm going to turn it over to Kay now. Thank you so much.
Well, Linda, thank you for going through that information with us. I want to just take a moment and remind everyone we will be taking your questions through the chat feature. So as you have a question, go ahead and type it into the chat. That way we can make sure we get everyone's questions. So I know many of you are asking, what does this mean for community network coordinated enrollment? These are unusual circumstances, and you have established procedures and a process for coordinated enrollment that this situation just does not fall into. Yet you still want to have information so that you have your records for community demand, for enrollment counts, and the community waiting list. So here's what we're saying about coordinated enrollment. The department CCAP division, and that's the division that Melinda, who you just heard speak, works with, they have already affirmed family eligibility. And so many of these families have already applied to their provider of choice. So that application is on file. Many may indeed have gone through your coordinated enrollment process last year, maybe again this year. So I don't want you to think you have to adhere to having families go through that process again. What we want you to do in this situation is we need community network lead agencies to work with the providers in their community and determine the best way to capture the information that you need to maintain your records for demand and enrollment and your community waiting list. That is going to look different in every community. So we will work with you to provide any data that's not available within your community. So if there's something that we can do for you at the department, we'll do that. But work together to determine the best way to get that information. That means providers will be giving lead agencies information so that you do have accurate records for your demand, enrollment, and waiting list. All right, so that's that information. Now we're going to give you some detail just so you'll know and be aware of the process that families will be going through with their form. So I'm going to ask Danielle Broussard, who is our program manager with the Child Care Assistance Program, and she will be reviewing that information with you.
Thanks, Kay. As Melinda previously discussed, the department has provided a waiting list breakdown that includes total count numbers by parish and children eligible to be removed by parish. The total number for children to be removed from the waiting list will be 4,500. Providers should have begun the process of notifying the provider help desk and/or provider certification of any inactive participants so that the department is aware of available openings within the parish. Waiting list verification forms, as previously mentioned, will be mailed to all households containing the 4,500 children on the waiting list. It is imperative that families return this form within 10 calendar days of receipt. In order to exhaust every avenue in reaching families, once again, providers will be utilized as an additional resource in contacting them. And then, as Ms. Melinda stated, no CCAP services will be provided for families being removed from the waiting list prior to September 4th. Here are a few elements that the families must verify on the CCAP form they will receive. They must first verify that they have not exceeded the 85% state median income, which will be shown in Section 3 of the verification form. They must also ensure that care is needed within 6 weeks of their certification date. If the families choose to attend a different child care provider than originally listed, they must complete a CCAP 10 report of changes and must also ensure that that provider has an available slot. The families must also complete a CCAP 10 if any changes have been made within their household, such as their address, income, household size, immunizations update, etc. Lastly, families must also verify that they still meet the education and training hour requirement. The waiting list verification form that will be shown in Appendix A is for viewing purposes only. The form that will need to be completed by the families will be sent to them directly from the department. There is no need for you to print or copy the form under any circumstances. There will be several options for families to return the form to the department, which includes fax, email, or mail, which are listed below. Here are some additional resources and quick references for you to utilize. The provider help desk link can be used for providers to submit questions and concerns through a ticket system process. The department asks that you do not share this link with families as it is strictly meant for providers. Now we will open up the floor for questions. In order to submit a question, select the chat function and we will read and answer the questions aloud. I will provide you with a few seconds to submit them. Okay, the first question we received is, could I please show the previous slide one more time? So on your screen, you should see the child care resources once again. And remember that this will be available for public use and you can refer back to it at any time.
We were also asked, is there a sense of when the last of the 4,500 children applied for CCAP? No, there is not. We don't have that information. The next question is there an estimate of how long before the remaining 3,000 children will receive funding? We also don't know that information. The funding that we received, we're using to provide services to the 4,500. So we have no idea when we'll receive additional funding. If families don't verify within 10 days, will they be kicked off the waiting list or just not given one of the now available slots? If families don't return the form, they must reapply. That's why it's so important, and that's why we're doing everything within our power to reach families. We've begun, as of tonight, at 5 o'clock, we'll begin calling families to let them know that the form is coming. So it is very important that they send the form back, or they will have to reapply. Is there any estimate?
I think you've got all those, Melinda, right now. So we'll wait a few minutes. Those are all of the questions that have come in right now. We'll take a few more minutes. I just want to remind everyone that this is being recorded. We'll make that recording link available to you. You'll also have access to the deck. Danielle, did you want to go on to the appendix right now? So Danielle has some documents that she'll show you that are part of the appendix for this presentation.
Here's a copy of the CCAP verification form. Again, this form is for viewing purposes only. The top section of the form will be pre-filled by the department and being sent out to them on tomorrow. If families select yes to all elements within the form, they are verifying that nothing has changed within their household. If no is selected for questions 3, 4, or 5, a CCAP 10 will be required. So once again, where you see LDE office use only, that will be pre-populated, as well as the date that the form is due, as well as the head of household's name and the case ID number. Everything else below I certify that will be the parent's responsibility, and they are also required to sign the bottom of the form. This makes the form valid once they submit it back to us.
Thanks, Danielle. So meanwhile, we have another question, And Amy from Natchitoches is asking, can the lead agency receive the list of children in their parish that will be mailed a letter asking, you're asking because you want to assist families with the CCAP application and can assist with reaching out to them. So Amy, I'm glad that you're willing to be so helpful. It seems that privacy laws keep us from providing that information just carte blanche. What I would suggest that you do is contact all of your providers, let them know that families who have previously been on the waiting list are going to be receiving communication from the department, and ask them, let them know that you're willing to help any family that needs assistance with their verification and doing it in a timely fashion. So I'm glad you're available and are offering that resource in Natchitoches. So Danielle is pointing out that if you look at Appendix A, that's really all families need to focus on right now. It's that verification form. And we've tried to make it as easy as possible. All they have to do is check, yes on that and return it by one of the many ways that were pointed out that they could return it. Danielle, did you want to add to that?
Just ensuring that all families sign the form to make sure that the form is valid, and that we reference the CCAP 10 numerous times throughout the form. So if they get confused on how to access it, you can always direct them to the website, or they can complete a report of changes through CAFE, which is their customer portal.
All right. So let's see if we have any additional questions. All right, since there are no additional questions, I just want to remind you that data certification, on another note, opens tomorrow, and so you'll be able to start that work. If you have any questions about that, get in touch with Nasha or Taylor. And if there's anything else that you need, you can certainly email me and I'll be available. I hope this webinar was useful for you this afternoon, and look for the deck and recording to come out soon. Thanks for joining us.